Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Tom Damigella from the North End Historical Society. Tom serves as the president of the organization. During the program, we're learning how and why the Historical Society came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. We'll also hear about the exciting plans that are currently underway for the upcoming North End Historical Museum, which will preserve, interpret, and celebrate the rich 400-year history of the North End neighborhood. Let's start by meeting Tom and then learning all about both the North End Historical Society and the much anticipated North End Historical Museum. Welcome, Tom. So delighted to be able to be here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Jay.
I was very excited to read about the upcoming museum. So eager to find out about that and hear where things stand and where things will be headed soon. But before we jump to all that, I think it would be of interest if you'd start, please, by briefly sharing a little bit about your background and then how you became involved with the North End Historical Association.
Well, it's interesting that I've always been interested in the North End because of my background being Italian. And this is where my family actually immigrated to the North End back in the early 1900s. My mother, particularly, came over at 7 years old and moved in on Hanover Street,
Oh,
right in the middle of the North End. And the history is just fascinating. And it's something I'm very proud of my heritage and how those early immigration routes were part of our story. And you know what? It always was close to me, touched me. And going to Italy and seeing my family over there. When I was a young man, I actually moved back into the North End and became part of the neighborhood in the late 60s, early 70s, and kind of never left, even though I did move out later on when my wife and I we got married. She moved in with me too, and we stayed in the North End. And then eventually we migrated out of the North End to the North Shore, but never left. Because once you get the
hmm.
North End somewhere in your soul and your heart, it's part of who you are as a community and neighborhood. It's a very iconic neighborhood, besides the history, the character of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most popular destination in Boston in general. So that's how I always involved. Then I had a lot of Italian friends who played soccer, etc. So I had the Italian Americans, and then I had my Italian friends, and I was in the cafes, and so it's just a very active part of my last 50, growing up, it was always there, but 50 or 60 years, I was always there. So then I got involved because I was in the North End. I got to meet other people and I got connected with the North End Historical Society. I met the two founders who established it in 2010. That was Alex Goldfeld and Jimmy Pasto. Both decided that the North End needed a historical society. They didn't have one, or if they did have one prior to that, it really didn't materialize or stay around. And they did a great job establishing it and making wonderful things happen. And one of the things that they did was they created a documentary of an Italian American neighborhood. And it's actually a wonderful 55-minute documentary they did in 2016 or whatever. And I knew about it and I participated in the showing and the initiation of it because by that time I'm already involved with Alex and Jimmy, and I know them, and I'm kind of then cared about those things. And as a result of that involvement, I basically eventually became a director in the
Mm.
society. And that was part of the history of my involvement that led to where I am today, which is another step which led me to want to create a museum because
Yeah.
they always wanted to have one when that was one of their kind of goals, but never materialized. They had a couple of false starts, and then I met Anthony Riccio, who's a wonderful storyteller of the North End and made many publications, and he and I became soul brothers
Mm.
because we had such a similar background, and then we just kind of fed on each other to say, we need a museum. And so I said, okay, Anthony, Jimmy, I'm going to get us a museum. And that started about 7 years ago, Jay. And where it was going to come from and how, I didn't know at the time, but I figured I finally figured out how to do that. And so that's why we led to the museum today. But there's a lot of steps in between 7 years ago into what happened today. So that's kind of my background. And I came from a business background, a family business, and I retired from that in 2016. So I got involved with this. I had time to do this. And now I'm working full time doing this. And I thought I was retired, but I'm not.
Hardly, no. You've made some incredible connections, have some wonderful people collaborating with you. Can you share how the mission of the Historical Society ties into the museum?
Well, it's a short little mission statement. In fact, I think I can read it to you. The mission of the North End Historical Society is to collect and preserve historical records and material, culture of the Boston North End, and to preserve, catalog, and present these resources as a service of the wider community through publications, lectures, educational programs, and exhibits. This mission includes ongoing efforts to bring together scholars and individuals knowledgeable and interested in all aspects of the North End history. Now, the only thing we added to it is and to someday have a museum. So that's been added to the mission. But up to this point in time, that's what we've been doing is having lectures. We have a newsletter. We have website. We have material that we present and interesting topics, and we have a membership that has grown up to over 300 paying members who
Hmm.
support us with their membership, and it's really keeping them informed and telling them things about the North End that they never knew about. And then we have some publications. This is like one, for instance. This is a second edition of just stories and historical things that we published, besides the
Nice.
documentary that was done in 2016. So we've done things that we're very proud of as a historical society. And this was all with volunteers, by the way. It still is to this point. Um, and I think what we've accomplished in that time and what we've planned to is kind of remarkable.
It is. You mentioned only since 2010 has the group been in existence. Can you give us a sense of maybe some of the more notable documents, artifacts, or photographs that you have in the collection?
Well, you know what? Yes, we got photographs again in artifact, but photographs. Hang on for 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Let's see. Uh, I should have shown this earlier. Could have had it with me, but I didn't.
That's
But we
okay. You
have,
know, Tom, we can edit this out, so we'll
good.
have a smooth transition.
Okay, that's good. The Here's an example. This is a book by Anthony Riccio from Italy to the North End.
Okay, yeah.
He worked there in 1978 to 82. Traveled to Italy, could speak Italian, and what his job in the North End was to service the anziani, which in Italian means the elderly people. And he was wonderful, great personality, loving man, and he had a great eye for the camera. And he traveled all through Italy and got his some of his historical credits by what he did in Firenze for when he's over there for a year. Went to his hometown. He's just like me. We had the same
Mm.
love for our roots, etc. That's why we connected so well. And he does all this documentaries, and so he's got thousands of photos, and we have them to archive them, and we're going to use them. And he became the storyteller before he passed away in 2002, 22. And that was a sad part of my story is that I lost a good friend, but somebody that would be absolutely out of his mind right now, knowing that we have this mission, this museum, because that's what our goal was. And we used to talk about it all the time. And I used to drive him crazy. Oh, you think so? You think so? Yes, we're going to do it. Oh, it was fun. And so that's one thing. And we have Vito Aluia, who grew up in the North End. He's got like 2,000 photographs.
Wow.
And so we have a lot of resources that we can draw from. So when we do stories or put things in the newsletter, it's really pictures make things come alive with the written word. So that gives you an idea of, and then on top of that, we have which we're going to use actual interviews
Mm.
with those elderly people that he did, and we could have them hear them tell their own stories.
Nice.
Now, his purpose was that he said, I wanted to record and preserve these people's history, the early immigrants that came here. Most of them, they're all Italian, but they all passed away. And he was right. He had had a vision to see that this is something, if he didn't do that, who's going to do it? In fact, one of the people he talked to, he said, Anthony, if you don't do this, nobody else will. And she knew
Nice.
that. And Mary Molinari was her name. And so those are things we hope to use. And but up to this time, we've done many presentations at the public library in the North End. We've done stories like on Sacco and Vanzetti. We've done things on the molasses flood.
Yeah.
We've done things on the immigration of Italians coming to the North End, and also immigration story on the Jewish wave that came in the 1880s. A lot of people didn't know. In fact, when we did those stories, they say, I didn't know Jewish people were in the North End because they only have today's history. Then
Right.
we talked about the Irish immigration, which was the first. They didn't even know they were here. That Rose Kennedy was born in Garden Court in 1897, and
Ha.
her father was Honey Fitz, JFK's grandfather, right here in the North End. So wonderful stories. Of course, then you go to the Revolution with Paul Revere, Sam Adams. You go even to the 1600s, you got Cotton Mather's, who was involved with the Salem witch trials and
Mhm.
was a very important man in right in the neighborhood of that little North Square. All this is happening right there, Jay.
It's
Forget the
exciting.
rest of Boston. Everything I just told you is right in that half square mile of things where it all began in 1630 to what's going on today. It's the longest continuous existing neighborhood that's still intact, basically in the country.
Oh, it's so well deserved that there's going to be a museum soon to celebrate that history. Can you pick up a little bit where you left off of getting the idea, getting the momentum with some others, the process that has been undergone to create the museum and where things stand now?
Well, things happen because of other people interested in such a thing. Okay. This started, like I said, almost like 5 years ago. I put a proposal in for a museum with the city,
Ah,
and I got everybody aware of this is what I was doing, and it was for a space by North Station in Lovejoy Loft, and it was going to be a community center that they had to give back to the community, and it was a lease-free arrangement,
hmm,
5 years to 20-year lease arrangement, but some build-out money. Where was I going to find a deal like that? And when I found out that something like this existed, I jumped on it with some help and people that were introduced me to the Boston redevelopment plan, who was handling it. I put the proposal in, and for 4 years, that proposal was kicking around.
hmm,
Had to restart it because COVID, people didn't
hmm.
do their jobs, but I was doing mine. And well, they finally made a decision back in August of 2003, I think it was, and we didn't get the space.
Ah,
But by that time, everybody said, why not? We should have it. This is awful. I can't believe it. And because of who got the space, really got people said, doesn't make sense. This is supposed to be a North End community.
yeah,
And why would the Haitian Cultural Center end up with that space instead? Well, in one way, that was a real disappointment.
sure.
But we had another project going at the time that had to do with immigration, the Noble Journey sculpture, which we were promoting at that time, spinning a lot of different dishes. But that got people aware of what our mission was. And so when that window closed, another window opened.
Nice.
So this year, for the past 2 years or so, I've gotten to know Frank DiPasquale very well. Frank DiPasquale is an entrepreneur, has 9 restaurants in the North End. He's devoted and committed to preserving the North End and its heritage. He doesn't want to see this thing disappear because gentrification is always the challenge that you deal with old communities and neighborhoods like ours, even though part of it's kind of happened, but we sustain the character. And that's one of his purposes. And he knew what I was trying to do. And he said, yeah, museum. He always knew what I wanted to do, so he would. We had some other ideas in that time period. So about almost 2 months ago, a space came up, a condominium space on Little Prince Street, right in the heart of North End,
Mm.
had a for sale sign on it. And I looked at it and said, "Oh my God, this is right where the Freedom Trail."
Mm.
So in my wisdom, I said, "I know who I have to talk to." And I met with Frank, and I told him what this property is, where it's located. This would be an ideal spot to establish our North End Historical Museum. And you know what? He said, "You're right."
Wow.
And Frank stepped up and he bought the condominium. I was trying to
Fabulous.
figure out how to maybe do something, but he stepped up. He saw the value of it and being that committed to what I'm just talking with. So that was the first step. And he's now leased it back to the North End Historical Society for 5 years, where I'm now the tenant. The North End Historical Society is the tenant, so we could establish this museum. And I just have a triple rent, no, not a rent, triple expenses, costs for condominium. It's minor stuff, but the rent is free. So
Wow.
I can't, so I can afford this going forward so we can sustain the society and now build out the museum. And on top of that, he stepped up and did the construction for me inside the space because it was just an empty, deserted shell for 15 years doing
Oh
nothing.
my goodness. Wow.
So he's done a wonderful renovation, and this is his generosity that we're very grateful for. Now, him
Most definitely.
yeah, and that was the first step and how that happened. And of course, that was the news story that was in the Globe and circulated around the community. And because of what I said to you earlier about the first attempt, when this happened, the buzz in the community, I couldn't walk anywhere and someone say, "Tommy, I heard about it. Congratulations. That's fantastic news." They're all like saying fit because they knew this is what they wanted. The
Yeah.
people that in the North End, they just said fantastic. So it didn't come out of the blue. It was about time, and good
Most definitely.
congratulations.
Most
So,
definitely.
so it created a great buzz, Jay, and it was very rewarding and gratifying to see the enthusiasm for it and support. So then the last step that I had to do is I already had 2 years ago, I met this company called Trivium Interactive,
Mm.
and they're professional museum designers and developers. And I didn't forget about them. So when I had the space and this all happened, I got on the phone. I said, "Jill, this is Tom Damigella. I wanted to call you because guess what? I've got a space for our museum." And she said, "Tom, it's funny you just called because I was just thinking about you." I don't know if that's true, but it's funny how these things
Right.
keep on happening. And so, sure enough, I set up an appointment, got down, and right on Lewis Wharf in the North End. That's where they're set up.
Oh,
Talk about
perfect.
convenience.
Perfect.
So she could walk up, she could look at the space. I sat down with her. We put a proposal. This is what we do. This is the square footage. This is what we want to do. I put a storyboard together with a committee uh, of historians that know the history well from their background, et cetera. And we did a storyboard and put it together, presented to them, and said, "Okay, here's your foundation to tell that 400 years of story," which they loved, of course. We gave them a lot of resources. Anthony's book. Alex he wrote a wonderful book in the North End, its history. So the resources we had, we gave to them to their delight, so they can now do the script writing and design a museum that could dynamically tell this story with the today's technology, the digital medias they have, and things that now that we've been working with them, I'm seeing ideas. I'm going, "Oh my gosh, can we do that now? Let's do that right now." It was just it's exciting watching their imagination and how we can tell the story. So
That's
that's
fabulous.
exactly what happened. What I just shared with you, how it ended up where we are now because of those circumstances.
Can you give us just a little hint of what the interior will hold for us, eager visitors?
Yes, because when you come off the Freedom Trail from Paul Revere's house or North Square or Sacred Heart or coming from the other way from Hanover Street or Leonard, You're going to walk right along the Freedom Trail into our space. It's about 900 square feet, and it's like a big rectangle with a little jog in it. But the way they would design it is that they would do curves and maybe other little sections of it that when you look in there, you won't see what I just described to you, and you'll see colors and writing and videos maybe moving and looping and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then what we want you to do is when you come in there, like we figured maybe a half hour to 45 minutes, based upon whether you're one of those people that like to just gloss over things
Hmm.
or if you like to dive in and read everything. It could be a half hour to 45 minutes or longer, who knows? But you go through it, you get the $400, yeah, 400-year picture of this incredible neighborhood that when you leave there, you say, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Because that's what I've been experiencing telling those stories I said to you earlier, is they didn't know that about the North End. So that's what I want them to, that's what we want them people to experience when they walk into that when you see, it's not a museum that's going to have artifacts all over the place. We don't have enough room, but we will have stuff like that. I get some ideas on how to still do that, but they're going to have an idea to learn something, which museums give people history, and that's what I want them to expect when they come in.
For those artifacts that can't be on view, one avenue is possibly digitize them and have that as a resource for people on your website.
That's a great idea, Jay. I think we have ideas of doing things of that. We even might have probably a curio cabinet of some sort that you could put them in, move it around, put it on wheels, because we want to do different things. Basically, we have large groups, small groups. We might plan presentations in there. So you want the portability of things. We're already thinking that way. But your idea of, again, giving them something to say if you want to investigate the background of this, here, QR
Mhm.
code or something, and they jump on, and next thing you know, but again, that's how much interest people want. They can do it on their phone and read more information if they want or
Definitely.
not.
I know there's a lot on your plate and others right now, but are you thinking maybe having some education programs connected to the
Well,
museum?
yeah, it's good that there's schools already in the North End. There's the Elliott School, there's the North Bennett Trade School.
Yeah.
Of course, there's St. John's Catholic School, which is right
Mhm.
around the corner from us. So we would bring create programs for those age groups, perhaps, and with field trips or things of that sort, we could set something up with the principals. We know the principals, so this is how you collaborate and do some of those things. And sure enough, we pick maybe a Saturday or a field trip during the springtime, and when they go on field trips, we could set something up like that, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to have, even though the space in the middle, in a way that we can do PowerPoint presentations and things of
Mm.
that sort, other than them maybe just coming in and viewing the displays and information we already have. I mean, but if we want to do something specific, sure.
How can residents, historians, or possible donors support the project during this next phase?
Well, we've done fundraising already, Jay, and we're so excited for the fact that I've had, since I announced this in our newsletter and got in the Globe and everything, I'm looking at my list right here, probably like 60 individual donations already from
Mm.
$25 to largest was $2,000
Wow.
and many $1,000 donations. And that only happens because of the base that they're already excited about the Northern Historical Society for the reasons I shared with you. So when they saw this, they even got more excited, and they were so generous. And I know these members are, personally, and they would write, say, Tom, here's $1,000 because I know who they are, I know who they are, and so it's a kind of a personal. It's not it's not. Uh, it makes it more significant, and people respond to personalities and individuals, and I'm very blessed by that part of
Well,
it too.
that it sounds very North End like that type
Yeah,
of.
that's right. You can't. One of my issues when I lived in the North End, I said, okay, I have to be somewhere by a certain time, but I had to give myself half hours to talk to everybody by the time I got to my car. So It's still that it still feels that way today, Jay. If I walk down Hanover Street, I could have five conversations before I get to wherever I'm going. And it has that kind of neighborhood feeling that is really still wonderful. And the church, St. Leonard's, is such a heart and soul in the spirit of the North End. Has been for decades, but even more so with the new priest, Father Michael Della Penna. And so much circulates around that uh, church with people who participate. Then you get all the societies, the religious societies. 100 years they've been in existence.
Mm.
They're on board. In fact, one of the wonderful donations I got from the St. Joseph Society was $2,000.
Wow.
These are my friends there. They love this stuff. We support each other, and they're celebrating their 100th year this year. So you got those personalities and events that never died out, and we want to keep preserving that. And then you get the Paul Revere House, friends of ours. Nina runs that. You got Nikki Stewart at Old North Church. You have the North Bennett School. We're collaborating with each other and always helping each other be successful along with someone like Frank DiPasquale, who runs another Gennaro Feast. And a lot of people are very generous. But more specifically, we still need donations.
Sure.
And we're still raising money because our big cost is probably going to have to at least raise $300,000 to build out the museum for Trivium Interactive. That takes time and money. We figure it might be almost a year before we get that completed.
Hmm.
You just don't put pictures up on the wall and say, "Come on in." I mean, you could do something like that, but it's not what we want to do. We want
No.
not to tell the story the right way. So, but that takes time and money. You got to buy the hardware. Once you know what you're going to do, how much you're going to use, do you use this many monitors or not? And they got a lot of clever stuff that I didn't even know existed. So, and then script writing, software. It's that's going to be the challenge. But so I believe I hope to have some good news in I think one of the best things that I've heard is that I've already got a promise from the representative of the North End, Aaron Mishewitz,
Mm.
who secured from one of the proposals that he asked me to give him. They have earmarks from the state legislative, and this is what he does is to support programs in the North
Mm.
End. Well, he told me that he secured $200,000 for us.
Whoa. Oh,
Whoa!
fabulous. Whoa.
So
Yeah.
you're one of the first people to hear it, and I'm telling you, so this is something we're going to announce in a couple of weeks. So I don't know when you want to play this, but I'm telling you, this is very exciting. That I know
Most.
that already gets me more than halfway working. So now people can
Yeah.
build on top of it. This is going to happen,
Fabulous,
Jay. This is going to
fabulous,
happen,
fabulous.
right?
Well, it's happening with you, the driving force, just your energy, positivity coming through, and just desire to make this happen, turning one sort of refusal and opening another door even bigger and wider. Just very exciting to hear these developments, and somebody who enjoys museums so eager in the next year, year and a half to be able to venture into the North End Historic Museum for sure. Tom, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the program.
Already? I can't believe
I
it. I felt like
know.
I just started
Well,
talking
this
to
has been
you.
great. You've provided wonderful background and insight of what's to come. Want to wish you continued success, you and the Historical Society in this wonderful venture.
And
And
we
just
do
look,
have a nice, great group of people that have really been supporting our board, people that have really, they're very committed people, dedicated, and that's what counts. And that's why I was so persistent to see something like this happen. And I'm so, as you said, look how eager you are. That's exactly what we want you to be. Is
definitely.
eager.
And look forward to collaborating on a program when we can highlight what's in the
Yeah,
museum.
yes, that'll be the next
Wonderful
step.
to feature you and the museum and any other collaborators then. But for now, just have to say thank you once again, continued success with future endeavors, and thanks so much for taking the time.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you too, Jay.
I also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.